Welcome to Snow Bros. It's Thursday the 29th. Meteorologist Matt Makins here. Major impactor still developing off the East Coast. We'll have wind, coastal tidal issues. We'll have some snowfall as well. Uncertainty remains in that snowfall, but I'll walk you through the possibilities in this video. Right now, if you break down what would be an extreme impact versus major versus moderate versus minor. Minor just being, yeah, you'll probably get an inch at least. You'll feel some wind, those kinds of things. But if you look at that, you can certainly see the bullseye is here across the East Coast. You look toward the Carolinas and the moderate to major impact. So areas along I-95 from Norfolk down to Columbia do have this major impact possibility coming your way. As far as the Cape toward New England, we have an impact there as well, although it appears lesser so than what happens to the Carolinas. More details on that in a minute. What we're watching is that low developing off the East Coast. It's actually a combo. We have some energy diving out of Canada, some energy down across closer to the Gulf Coast. They're going to combine, and that energy will come together in that form of that low pressure area, really deepening off the East Coast as we head into the weekend. And again, we're still tracking some variable snowfall totals. One model has some heavier pockets of snowfall in one location. The next model shifts it somewhere else. If you look at kind of a blended model average, it puts most of the snowfall on North Carolina and stretches it along the coastline all the way up toward the Cape, and then puts another bullseye up toward Halifax. That's kind of a blend for right now. Why is there still uncertainty in the snowfall projections? Well, for a number of reasons, but the main reason is the difference in each modeling, where it develops the low and exactly where does it send it. The track can wobble just a little bit, and with each model update we've seen a little closer to the coast, a little farther from the coast, and those uncertainties still need to be worked out. But I have a solution for that for you in just a moment. As we watch the system progress, we're Friday. This is 7 o'clock Friday, midday Friday, and Friday night right around supper time. Things are beginning to evolve here around the Gulf Coast toward the Atlantic coast. We have some thunderstorms across the Gulf, kind of crossing the panhandle of Florida, up into Georgia, up into South Carolina. Watch those thunderstorms kind of push off over the ocean, and we've seen developing heavier snowfall here from South Carolina, North Carolina, parts of Tennessee and Kentucky into Virginia, and also parts of Maryland for that matter. Here we are Saturday morning, and watch right in here what happens as we go Saturday midday, Saturday afternoon and evening, and then early Sunday morning. You're seeing the contours, the lines. That's that low pressure area deepening or gaining momentum, gaining energy. And as it did so, did you see the precip values begin to jump up? The colors really popped on the map. That's the strength of the system developing. So yeah, it's kind of trying to get its act together Friday. Saturday, it gets a little bit stronger, and by Saturday night into Sunday morning, this is 1 a.m. Sunday Eastern time, that's when the really howling winds are setting in. Very heavy coastal precipitation in the form of snowfall likely for the Carolinas. We also have to worry about a full moon and high tides at times this weekend too. So all of these factors, there's really a tremendous coastal impact potential that we have to sort through for the weekend. There is another system back here over the Great Lakes in the upper Midwest, but you can see the comparison between the two. Just look at the lines. Much, much deeper low here, much stronger. As you get into Sunday morning, Sunday midday, and Sunday afternoon, it does get very close to Halifax and Nova Scotia, and then head towards Newfoundland as we go from Sunday into Monday morning. By Monday morning at 7 o'clock, you're headed back to work in most cases, and that's when the storm system is well away from the States. It is impacting eastern Canada, and we'll have some snowfall totals for you folks in a minute. And then things get quieter. Yes, some leftover snowfall from that next system, but let's watch what happens as we just focus on the Carolinas. So here's Friday, 7 o'clock in the morning, midday into the afternoon. Some folks have snowfall, and that stretches up towards Charleston, Lexington, out toward Nashville. So I-40, 75, 64, all potentially getting some snowfall. And then you go south here, say south of 20 or so, and that's where we'll have some showers, some thunderstorms, so rainfall in that case. Not much of an icing potential, it appears, with this system, unlike the last system. Here we are Friday night, around Columbia. Areas of rainfall. You go north just to Charlotte, and then Winston-Salem, Johnson City, Roanoke to Charleston. That's going to be primarily snowfall, and that pocket of snowfall here gets heavier and heavier into Saturday afternoon. That's 1 o'clock Saturday. So sometime midday, that's when Charlotte probably gets its heaviest snowfall. That heaviest snowfall slides toward the coast by late Saturday into early Sunday morning. Here we are Sunday morning at 7 o'clock. Norfolk, along some of the Outer Banks here, that's when we're going to get some of the heaviest snowfall there. Once we hit Sunday afternoon, this region quickly quiets down from the major impactor. However, there's additional snowfall, another system coming through, and perhaps one developing by Wednesday and Thursday to spread perhaps rain or even snowfall back on the same region. We'll worry about that next storm system next. As far as the timeline, just for an example around Charlotte, just to get you more precise timing, relatively quiet throughout the day, Thursday into most of Friday. Here we have Friday at 4 o'clock, 7 and 10. And that's when your cloud cover increases greatly, and beyond Friday at 10 o'clock, and you're going into the overnight hours Saturday, into Saturday midday, that's your peak in your snow chances. So most of the first half of your weekend rather snowy around Charlotte. In terms of snowfall, here's one model's solution, and it has some totals at 6 to 9 inches here around Charlotte to Asheville to Knoxville. Not much surrounding areas. Coastal, Norfolk about 6 inches, Wilmington about 5 or so. Compare that to a different model, and here you can see some slight shifts in some of those totals. But in both regards, they're more consistent than they had been. And if you just kind of blend a ton of models together, not just two, but a ton of them together, these are the estimated totals. And you have a 9 bullseye there at Winston-Salem. You're getting closer to a foot here as you move out closer to the coastline. Norfolk now 13 inches, Richmond at 8.5, Roanoke at about 7. We're going to come back to this in a moment. Can't really focus on snowfall totals precisely just yet. We still have uncertainty in that storm track. Let's shift the map and go up toward New England, the Northeast. So here is just to orient yourself. There's DC, Philly, New York, Hartford, Providence, Boston, all the way up toward Nova Scotia with Yarmouth and Halifax. You can see a big bullseye snowfall here just off the Cape. That's in one model variation. Look at the next. It puts that bullseye more so closer to Nova Scotia and doesn't do much for Boston or Providence. So right now the range and possibility for, say, the Cape or Boston, Providence, Hartford, you're going from very little snowfall to 6, 7, 8, 9 inches, depending on the model you're looking at. If you blend them all together, we're kind of looking at an average of 7 or 8 from Boston to Providence, closer to 10 as you go toward Falmouth, and then New York City, Philly, down toward DC, you're kind of averaging out at 2 or 3. And again, in a moment, we'll break down what this modeling, what these uncertainties really mean. What are we looking at? You know, don't give me a huge range of 0 to 300 inches. That does me no good. But I can give you the probabilities here in just a second. I just didn't want to leave out the folks here in Eastern Canada because they do have a bullseye coming their way. In both models, reasonable agreement of 30 to 40 centimeters on the low end, up to about 60 to 70 on the high end. So it is going to be a major impactor snowfall-wise here in Eastern Canada. Plus the wind is going to be howling. And it coincides with the high tide, full moon and things. So there's going to be some coastal issues there for sure in Eastern Canada. Now let's talk about this probability. If you're a meteorologist, you're a forecaster, and you're looking at snowfall and you have all of these wide range of things, right? And the uncertainty of the track just isn't set in just yet. And you need that certainty before you can get really precise snowfall totals. What do? Well, you lean on that. You use the uncertainties. What is that? That's probabilities. It's like walking into the Vegas sports book and betting on the Super Bowl. You weigh your probabilities of what's happening. That's kind of what we're doing in the weather world. So here are the probabilities of getting 4 inches of snowfall, getting more than 4 inches of snowfall along the East Coast. Boston, your chances about 50-50 to get more than 4 inches right now. Virginia Beach, Bath, Wilmington, Raleigh, we're all at about 80 to 90%, if not higher, chances of getting at least 4 inches of snowfall. So when you look at all the modeling solutions that are there, there's a lot of confidence that at least for North Carolina, perhaps South Carolina too, but North Carolina into sections of Virginia, perhaps Maryland too, Delaware also on the south side, there's a high likelihood that you're going to get at least 4 inches. Now let's take a look at 8 inches, and you can see how things drop off. Now still, for the coastline here, Virginia Beach down to Avon, Bath, and Wilmington, that's a 40 to 84% chance of getting at least 8 inches. So the farther east you are, closer to the coastline here in Carolina, we have closer chances to get to 8 inches. It's not a locked-in guarantee, but when you look at all the modeling solutions, there's a firm bet for some of those higher totals there off to the east. And you can see how close these come to clipping, say, Long Island up toward the Cape. So let's zoom these maps in a little bit more specifically. Again, chance of getting more than 4 inches of snowfall is highest, say, around Greenville or Kitty Hawk. Mid-90 percentiles there. That's a pretty good bet for 4 inches at least. You look toward Fayetteville, 80% chance, Rock Hill, Hickory, Asheville, Greenville, and you can see those probabilities dropping off as you move inland. Down to the south, lower. Up to the north, lower. Around D.C., about a 17% chance. Del Mar, Mapsville, about 50-60% chance. Atlantic City, 47% chance of getting more than 4 inches. And of course, to get more than 8, you're going to drop those probabilities, less likely. But Greenville, about a 70% chance of getting that much. Kitty Hawk, 87% chance of getting that much. Out toward the east, Greensboro, Fayetteville, closer to 50% at best for getting around 8 inches. As you look toward Long Island, we move toward the Cape. So we've got all kinds of spots here on the map. I'll just try to call some out. Maybe just hit pause and you can pick out your location or what's close to you. But as you go from Oceanside out along Long Island, we're looking at 30-40% chance of getting 4 inches. As you get toward the Cape, though, it's more like a 70, closer to 80% chance of getting to 4 inches. Boston right now is about a 50-50 shot. You look at the 8-inch totals, not much of a chance here along Long Island, but it would just take a little wiggle in the storm. But as you look out toward the Cape from Falmouth all the way beyond, you're looking at better than 60% chance odds of getting at least 8 inches. And you can see how quickly inland you really don't have the odds at all. It's a coastal storm system. That's what it's going to do. And finally, let me show you this. Watch right in here. As we get into Friday afternoon and evening, that's when that low cranks up. That's the strong wind impacting the East Coast, coinciding with some of the tide issues. So high tide, strong winds, some of the winds will surpass 50 miles an hour easily along the coastline. So it's going to be a really damaging coastal storm, it appears. And the exact track remains to be seen. But we couch that with the uncertainties. I gave you the probabilities. And then as we go throughout the day today, Brian Shields and myself will continue to pore over the data. And sometime during the course of the day today into tonight, I bet that data sure gets a lot more confident in the track of the storm system. And certainly we'll provide you with further updates. So if you're subscribed, you'll get these updates as we get the data and produce a new video for you. So we're going to track the uncertainties. They will be reducing. Snowfall forecast into a better agreement, so more firm numbers for you. With the moon and the tides, coastal impact from wind potentially significant, and that's something we'll also be focusing more on, is the wind aspect of this storm as it cranks up along the coast. That's it for this Snow Bros update. Thank you for joining us and building this weather community. We're just trying to give you the data transparently, as forecasters should, giving you the uncertainties today with those probabilities, and higher certainties will give you those snowfall totals pinpointed down to your location. And if we miss your location, you didn't see it on the map, leave it in the comments. Brian and I'll be watching through those during the course of the day too. Have a great day.